So, you finished editing your video and it's time to share it with the world. But you met with a long list of complicated presets and formats. My name is Maya, and in this video from HubHub, I'm going to teach you how to properly export your video in Premiere Pro. Let's have a look at it. So we're back in the Premiere interface, and we want to find a sequence that we want to export. So let's go sequence. I have a little folder called how to export, and we have our clip here. What you want to do is that you want to click on the sequence that you want to export. So here we have an example with two girls in the car. The first thing that you want to do is that you want to select the area which you want to export. You do this by going to the beginning of the sequence. You press I for in, and then you go to the end of the sequence and press O for out. This means that you will only export this section. Say, for example, that you have several clips down in the timeline that you don't want to export. This way you make sure that you only export the section that you want to. And you see that this little blue bar is around it. Then you want to go up to your top left and you want to click your export tab. Let's do it. So the first thing you want to make sure is that you have media file turned on. You can see that up here. The second thing that you want to do is to name your file. Your file is always automatically named after your sequence file. So here we have that here. The next thing we want to do is to find the location for where you want the video to go after you export it. So what you do is that you click this link here. And because we already have a file structure called Editing File Structure at Education, which is the one that you can download together with all these instruction videos, you have a folder for renders. You click this and you click Development. And I mentioned this in a previous video, but I'm going to mention it here again just to be sure. You want to make sure that you export your clips with version names. So this one is called version 1. The next time you export this clip after you made some changes, you name it V2 for version 2. I'm going to press save. In this example, we're just going to stick to the normal preset that Premiere has picked for us, the normal format. We're then going to go down to range down in the bottom left corner. And from this section, we want to pick source in to source out. This basically means what I explained before, that you're only going to export from your in point to your out point and nothing more. And then what we do is that we click export. So now we've exported version 1 of this clip. A really good habit to do is to right click, duplicate, and then name this version version 2. Now, if we're going to change things around in this timeline, we can still look back at version 1 if there's anything that we like in version 1 that we want to access at a later point. By doing so, we can always look back at version 1 if there's anything that we've forgotten or anything that we edited that we want to access at a later point. All right, let's export the second version. Same as before, we choose the in point and out point. Let's say we want a bit of a shorter clip. So if I press plus and zoom in, and I want this clip to be exactly 10 seconds long. Then I grab the bar here where my out point is, and I drag it until you see at the top right corner where I hit 10 seconds. That means that from the in point to the out point, this clip is now 10 seconds and 2 small frames. I can then go up to export. Same again, the file name is the name of the sequence, and I now have version 2. So when you export version 2, you know that it's the newer version of the clip that you just exported previous. As I said before, Premiere has a lot of different presets that you can look into. So they have a tab where you have the favorite ones, and the one that Premiere usually always recommend is Match Source Adaptive High Bitrate. Match Source means that Premiere is using the settings that the sequence and the clip already has. So for example, this clip is 23.976 frames per second, and it's shot in 1920 by 1080. That means that the export will be in the same aspect ratio and the same frames per second. If you want any other aspect ratio or any other frames per second, then we can choose more presets, and there's a lot to choose between. For example, if you're going to export something for YouTube, you can search YouTube, and you have a few different YouTube options. So let's say I pick YouTube Full HD, which is the same aspect ratio as my clip already is. I click that, I press OK, and we now have the export setting for YouTube. If you want to make sure you use the best quality that your footage can give, you want to click on the Video tab, go down to More, and select Render at Maximum Depth. If you also use some effects in your video, and you want to make sure that the effects have the best possible outcome, then you want to click Use Maximum Render Quality. Keep in mind though that this will prolong the encoding time, so it will take longer for your computer to export the video. It depends on how good your computer is, so you don't always need to tick this. It depends on if you're going to show this on a small screen or a big screen, but it's good to know. Now we selected the export settings for this clip, version 2. Let's say we want to export this video, but we still want to keep on working on another sequence. What we can do then is to export this clip in Media Encoder. So Media Encoder is basically a different software to Premiere Pro, but they're linked so they work together. Media Encoder is good for two options. The first thing is what I said. If you want to be working on a sequence and exporting another sequence at the same time, you can do that, which is super good if you're on a strict deadline. The second reason is that you can queue several videos. Say you need to export 10 different small videos. You can put them all to Media Encoder, press play, and they will export on its own. Super good. So we're going to go down to the right and we're going to press Send to Media Encoder. So then Media Encoder will open automatically as another program. Here we go. And here you see your export. You see the name of the export, version 2. You see your settings here. And if you click on these, you get the same export setting window that we already have in Premiere. We don't need to change anything of that now because I've already made the settings in Premiere. So I'm going to click Cancel. It says Status Ready, which means that Media Encoder and Premiere are synced and ready to go. And then we press the little green arrow play button up here. And there you go. Your video is exported via Media Encoder. That was it, guys. Exporting your footage isn't actually as daunting as it seems.